Welcome. Another Hot Topic Tuesday. We are July, what is it, 28 today for the recording of this. I got a feeling that some are thinking, boy, have we beaten this one to death. So it's the reason I thought, well, let's try things a little bit different here today in regards to helping everyone understand earnest money deposits. And we'll have this as a recording for future use within the offices. It'll be posted in the HRC Agent Development channel, and we're going to run it from there. So, as I mentioned, we're going to do some polls today. It is the first time that I've done it, so you guys got to participate well and have a little bit of fun together with this one. So, here's the first question that we're going to ask. Is an earnest money deposit required to make an agreement binding? And what you should find is your ability to be able to click on one of those answers as they pop in, right? All right. 12 of 16. Listen, we're right on. We're there. So as you can now see, you guys have all got the right answer with that one. And that is that it is not a requirement. It's really basically a tool for liquidated damages, is the way that I would put it. You could have love and good faith, and it becomes a binding and purchase agreement. But the bottom line is we do not need an earnest money deposit to be able to make a purchase agreement binding. That's kind of an old myth that existed out there. So you guys have got the proper one with our first poll question, and nothing that I will expand upon with that one. So let's go to question number 2. Hold on a second. What is the purpose of an EMD? And you got the multiple choices there. So how are we doing? Is that one up in front? We've got, there we go. Now they're coming in. All right. We got a few more. I'm going to wait for a few more. We got 19 that could participate here. There we go. Give me just a couple more seconds, see if we got 16 of 19 here. So let's roll with that for right now. I'm going to end the poll. Here's the results that you guys had. So let's break through these. We've got a deposit made with anyone that can be used for total funds needed at time of closing. Well, is that not a factual answer? Goes toward closing costs, the money needed at the time of closing. So that would be correct. Second choice we had was a deposit made only with the buyer's broker showing good faith in closing the transaction according to the terms of the purchase agreement. Is there any it's not 100% on that one?
No, because sometimes you're required to give it to the seller's title company.
There you go. So John nailed it. It really could be with the selling broker, it could be with the listing broker, it could be with, if there's a builder, it could be deposited with the builder, it could be deposited with the title company. So when we put it in here, and John caught it, and I tricked a few of you with this, It's not only with the buyer's broker. All the rest of that is correct. And I'm going to leave the rest for a later question. Deposit that is forfeited if the buyer walks away for any reason other than what the purchase agreement may allow.
Nope. Unless
Expand
both
on that one,
parties agree
John.
in writing.
There you go. So see, there's a little bit missing. It's true, except for we've got to have an agreement and make sure that there's no dispute over it. So a lot of you got tricked by all of the above. And a couple of you got tripped by the none of the above. But
Hey,
a
Darwin,
deposit made with anyone that can be used for total funds needed at the time of closing, we'll call that the best answer. How's that work for everybody? Any questions, any thoughts on that?
yay.
All right.
Darwin,
Let
I
me.
got an example. I just talked to another agent about this morning when I was manager at the Rochester office.
Uh-huh.
And what it was is that we had an EMD of 10,000 or 15,000 that was in dispute. And we went to circuit court and it was during COVID time, so we had to do it on Zoom. And one of the sides did not show for it. So the money was still held, was never given to either party, was never dissolved. And from what I remember, it probably went back to the state.
Wow. Wow. So it truly is a great example, and I haven't got into the point with today's session. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. We'll see how we're doing on time. But it's like, what happens if we have a dispute over an earnest money deposit? And for that matter, even I had a call yesterday from someone in regards to a damage deposit.
That's who I was talking to.
Ah, it was that guy. Yeah. So it's well, I'll tell you, a lot of people think damage deposit is great to get. Well,
It's a
uh,
nightmare.
great if you like some additional hassles after you've done a closing. But which side are you on? So, well, let's do this. Here is question number 3. By state law, when must it be turned into the office? Oh, and I didn't even give you a choice. I missed my aspect here. Okay, so um, choice 2, correct. What is the actual answer? Let's just do that this way. What is the actual answer for when must an earnest money deposit be turned into the office?
48
Who
hours.
dare say? Okay, what was it? I think
48
I heard
hours
48
within
hours.
acceptance.
Scott, say that again.
Within 48 hours of acceptance, business days, obviously.
No,
Yeah,
with
and
whatever
now,
reference back to the purchase agreement.
okay, so it's what I was just going to say. One of the things that we got to be careful of is that it's 48 hours of acceptance. Okay. But I'm going to clarify what my question actually was for this. When must it be turned into the office? So you receive an earnest money deposit. Matter of fact, let me do question number 4 here. So what I have before we launch this one, I guess I already did launch it, but go ahead and respond to question number 4. But I want to address before we actually talk question 4. You receive an earnest money deposit as an agent. I receive it as an associate broker. When must I bring that to my admin? When do I got to deliver that to the office? So again, separate from question 4, and I'm glad all of you are answering question 4. But separate from question 4, which should have been question 3, although I didn't give you the options. When must I deliver that to the office? Otherwise, I'm going to let somebody answer that who knows the answer.
Or when there's several answers in the chat.
Yeah, but not for that. That is when must it be deposited. So I'm kind of bad. That's right. Back on question 3. You, the agent, forget question 4 because they're 2 different answers. You don't deposit the check.
Immediately upon receipt.
Thank you. Everybody needs to know and understand you as a real estate salesperson, you as a real estate associate broker, be it me, be it Jamie, if we take an earnest money deposit, we must deliver it to the office immediately. It's got to get to the office ASAP. Get it out of your hands, get rid of the responsibility for it, get it to the office. And that is not just a company policy. That is state law. If you don't do that, you are in violation of your licensing laws. All right? So that was supposed to be question 3. Again, I didn't give you any options on that. Jamie nailed it 100%. I get it as an agent, not deposit. I don't deposit it as an agent. But I received it, and therefore I must get it to the office as soon as possible. Now, question 4, it looks like we are all set. Obviously, I've had it up there for a bit. Here's your results. So, we've got, depends on what the purchase agreement says. 5 of you, 31% said that one. We'll go through all of them. Within 48 hours, the bottom line signature of the purchase agreement. Within 48 hours of receipt of the deposit. And then there's within 2 banking days after the broker has received notice that an offer to purchase is accepted by all parties. And the correct answer is within 2 banking days after the broker has received notice of an offer's acceptance by all parties. Now, some of you got hung up because depends on what the purchase agreement says. And if you know and understand our purchase agreement, that would be one of the reasons you would say it is that answer. Because our purchase agreement says it shall be deposited within so many days. But the broker, now we don't do this. We don't hold checks. We get it, you drop it off in the office. Technically, we have 2 days after acceptance of the purchase agreement. As a company, Donna, you're right there. When do we deposit them? Immediately, am I right? Once a day it goes in. Okay, so everything that we receive that day, it's going in. Technically, the correct answer, 2 banking days after the brokers receive notice that an offer to purchase is accepted by all parties. So once we have acceptance, we might have 5 days for it to be received and deposited. If we receive it on the 3rd day, fantastic. Buyers all set and under meeting all the terms of the contract. We're going to deposit it immediately. If it was 5 days, we have up to 5 days to receive it, to have the buyer, in accordance to the terms of the purchase agreement, we will deposit it immediately. But by law, the brokerage has 2 banking days, so not even what it is 48 hours. 2 banking days is the term that it used, is in the actual act. Okay, just make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat over here. Yeah, David, that's a good one. I think a great one for us to be able to chat about, actually. So David put in the chat here, EMD to be deposited after satisfactory inspection. Now, that's plenty acceptable. It can be done. As a listing broker, I would not want my seller to say yes to that. Why don't you give it to me now? Why don't you have it paid to your buyer's broker now, right? My guess would be the reason that a buyer or a buyer's agent might recommend going deposit upon satisfactory inspection is because they're a little leery. They want to pull out. They're uncertain. They don't want to have to fight for their earnest money deposit, things of this nature. I will share with you that a satisfactory inspection, will you remember to collect it? See, we write the offer. We're going to get the, 7 to 10 days later, we're going to do the inspection. We remove the inspection, and will you remember to collect the earnest money deposit? It's the only reason I don't like to do that as a buyer's agent. Okay, it's the only reason I don't like to do it as a buyer's agent. So, but it's doable. It's doable, especially if your buyer is requesting that that be done. Yeah, now here's another issue that you could run into if you delay it that long. It's a personal check. It's got to clear because it's commingled with other people's money. If that check is bad and has not cleared, we just gave that person somebody else's money because they never really put money into it. So we've got to make sure that when it comes up, personal checks are cleared. Are personal checks going to be cleared by the time you get to your closing? So keep that one in mind. And Debbie put, just to be clear, we collect the EMD after the PA has been accepted by both parties, correct? That depends upon, we go back to one of the answers. It depends upon what the purchase agreement says. Our purchase agreement gives you the opportunity to collect the earnest deposit immediately. Maybe you had it and it got transferred from another deal, or you can collect it. Most of my purchase agreements are 5 days. And I do that just because there's weekends, I'm out of town, I need to send it to you. There's lots of different reasons why you would do that. But the shorter that time period, the better your purchase agreement would be.
Or they left it on the scanner.
Say that again, John.
They said they left it on the copier or scanner and someone else finds it.
No, that never happens either. All right, let's go to question number 5.
I saw someone made a note regarding wiring EMDs. I now purposely this year only do money transfers through our C21 system, and it works very well. And as soon as the buyer hits that, I get a copy on it. It's perfect.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So, question number 5. Why do we require the proof of EMD? Yeah, I think this one, there's a manager. This one, guys, I'm having a little bit of fun. Yeah, I got an admin who might be beating me over the head, but I might have a managing broker that beats me over the head for it too. So I had a little bit of fun with this one. I'm going to end this now, but the key being this. It's yes to all of the above, because I should have a admin that loves me enough and a manager who loves me enough to make sure that we get that, because it is about protecting the buyer, the seller, the brokerage, and you as the agent. Bad things can happen. And you think, and matter of fact, anybody with any experience might say, because they've had this happen, they didn't get the earnest money deposit, believe it or not. They didn't get it. Well, then it's discovered right around the closing time when we go to do all the documents, because they call to verify the earnest money, the title company does, and they go, oh, well, no, we don't have it. So the mortgage company says, no problem. Just give me an addendum that says the earnest money deposit is nothing, and we'll change the documents, right? But what happens if you get to the clear to close, you set the closing, and then all of a sudden the buyer decides that they're walking? For a reason outside what the purchase agreement allows. What if it was your buyer and you, the agent, didn't get receipt, didn't collect the earnest money deposit? What might be the result if you could never collect that from the buyer? Who might have to pay that? And don't start looking around behind you, because
The
there's
broker.
nobody there. Look in the mirror, guys. No, hey, I've never seen it.
The broker will.
No, I don't think the broker will.
No.
Right, John? I mean,
We had one where another buyer agent for our seller, like a $800,000 house when I was in Rochester, or anyway, the buyer backed out, but the agent put on the purchase agreement he was in receipt of the EMD, and he backed out after 3 days because he found out he was getting transferred and there was no EMD really. And there was new construction. That new construction went after that buyer heavily.
so guys, don't be responsible for it. And that's what I want you to know. As a brokerage, as a managing broker, as Jeremy Wolfram, Chris Hendricks, I'm I would totally expect them to say, Conley, you screwed that up. You've got to pay it. That's what I would expect. Thankfully, we've never had it get that far, but I will tell you, in my managing days, I had an agent that, one, made it receipt of the earnest money deposit after the inspection. Never collected it. Got to the closing. Buyer doesn't show up. Went, oh crap, we don't even have it.
And that's happened.
And thankfully, they were able to get it from the buyer. But if not, agent would have been having to pay it. Okay? That's a good one. Any other discussion toward that one? Yes, 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 yes. Good. Okay. Yep, Holly, you hit what we were addressing. All right, here we go. Question number 6. When we turn in EMD, what must accompany that EMD? So I bring it in and I'm going to give it to Donna. I hand her a check or whatever it is I'm giving her. What else is she going to expect? Good, we're getting up there. We got about half of you so far. Keep them coming, guys. We're going good. We're up to 15 of you. See if we get a couple more participating. Nothing, everything, purchase agreement. Or what? I got to turn something in? Yeah, we'll go with it. Here we go. We got 16 of you. Here's what we said. Thankfully, nobody said nothing. I might be preaching to the choir here. But I can tell you if I had my admins participating, they get nothing. They get a check sitting there and they don't even know what it's for. So really as a minimum, we need that purchase agreement so that the earnest money deposit is tied to a property. If for some reason that deal doesn't come together, if it falls apart, because after it did come together, we can hold it, we can transfer it, we can get all the things. And one of the biggest is making sure that we take care of you and all the parties involved is to make sure that we have a mutual release. Okay? So what we're really looking for is the purchase agreement. What would be awesome is that you have everything, but we know that's difficult. Sometimes it just takes a bit to be able to put everything together. But as a minimum, purchase agreement. Donna, just because you're there, is that pretty much the correct answer? Is there anything you would add to that? Nothing more. All right. Yeah, broker requirement would actually work because it's going to have the property to come along with it. So
Hey,
the
Darwin?
biggest part, yeah, go ahead, Renee.
Doesn't every office use the EMD form?
You would hope so.
I mean, it's mandatory in my office.
Yeah, well, and you're absolutely right. And think of it this way. When it comes to the EMD, it's required that we have the purchase agreement with it as a minimum. But quite frankly, I think right on, Renee, if you use the earnest money deposit receipt, that's a simple one. We could probably get by with that. Because the key is that we want to tie the earnest money deposit that you turn in to the admin to a property.
But for the purchase, you need the purchase agreement though for the dates, Darwin,
There you go.
right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
really why you need it, so that we're comparing, because if we're out of compliance, then we need an addendum.
Okay. So
I'm
there's,
with, I'm with
by the way,
John.
there's always lots of good stuff that there's other things that go on with why we need certain things. And maybe today like that's an extra one that we have. There was somebody else there?
Yeah, Darwin, me. With
Yeah,
the
Scott.
I'm with John Goings on the electronic stuff. There is no, you don't turn anything in. They get a receipt. I basically forward the receipt of the deposit to the admin. That's how they know what's going on. Now I'm a guy that does my own SkySlope stuff too, though. So I think that would be a little bit different if you're having the admin do the SkySlope stuff versus doing it
Yeah.
yourself.
Well, let's see. Donna, what say you with that one?
I say that I would ask them for the purchase agreement because I have to be able to enter it into SkySlope.
Yeah. So
That's
it
an
needs to have
exception.
that tie together.
Yes.
And not have to go look for it. So even when you do have that, we would still need the notification to Donna. And by the way, Scott, yours would work, but I'd have to notify our admin that, hey, I put this purchase agreement together. I've dropped this earnest money deposit off for you. Or even the receipt, I'm going to guess that I haven't done it, but I'm going to guess that you're putting that into the SkySlope file. And Donna would need that package together. So it's just, we got to, matter of fact, in the simple terms, earnest money deposit has to be tied to a purchase agreement. So if you're using electronic deposit and you've got it into the same file with the purchase agreement, that's going to work. And Donna, thank you for being on because I can look and you're giving me the head nod. So I don't do what all of these people do, and they're awesome to have, especially as a manager. All right, good stuff. All right, here's the next one. What must I do? What must be done if I have an earnest money deposit that is more than we as a company will be receiving in compensation? This one's interesting. I really thought that we wouldn't have these results. All right, we got 1920. Oh, we had a lot of people participate. This is 90% participation. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here and share with you. Here's the results. And you can tell by Donna's face. Oh, I'm so glad you're on here. Yeah, guys, it is a simple request for an overage check. Donna, can you kind of explain what that process? Would you mind sharing that with everyone?
Sure. Usually you just need, we get the documents and then we know what the overage amount is in case there's been any changes to the commission amount. And then we also deduct the transaction fee from that. And then you come up with the overage amount. You can let your admin know. Michelle is the one who processes the checks, but we actually do the check request and request the overage. And we hope we have enough time to get it via mail, because then we have to request an overage with a overnight package. So it's usually better if we have it a few days in advance. And you usually know when you take the deposit if you're going to have an overage. We did have one recently where it changed the day before closing, so we didn't know in advance. And that
Okay.
should be the exception.
So, guys, when we speak an overage, let's say I'm going to try to do this with simple math, a $300,000 purchase price. We did a 3% earnest money deposit, $9,000. We've got compensation of 3% plus $495. We're going to be fine. There's no overage. But let's say I had because we were trying to make we're in a competitive situation. Buyer wanted to make a very, very good offer, and they gave $18,000. Obviously, there's a whole lot more money that we're holding in our trust account than what we would be receiving, or what we would be our total compensation of the $9,000 plus $495, otherwise $94.95. Okay, there's an overage that we have that either goes back directly to the buyer, but the problem is now it's not accounted for, and we know in a real estate transaction the government wants everything to be able to be shown. So that check, typically the overage is written to the closing or the escrow company. Typically for us, that's the title company. We write that overage to the title company. Title company then has it all documented and showing how it's being dispersed.
And if it's two title companies on the deal, it's the title company that's doing the disbursement.
Okay, the one with the money.
Yep.
Darwin, I always, when I check my files, I put in the EMD part, you need an overage so that the admin and the agent are both aware ahead of time.
Yeah, don't wait until the last minute, because again,
Yeah, you don't
we've
want to
got,
make Michelle unhappy because she pays us.
and she's close to Renee, so please, even if you're in another office,
Yes, please.
right?
You also,
Good
Darwin,
stuff.
you also have to take that into account when you have a relocation deal, when they're going to take out the referral fee.
So if you're working relocation, hopefully you know that you're new to it. Man, get everybody involved is the way I would put it. So, all right, here we go. launch. There we go. This one should be quick. Yeah, guys, the big key to this is that we've already talked about it. We want you to know that this is available. Well, yeah. Hey, John, would you mind sharing? I haven't had to use it yet.
Yeah, I use it all the time now. It's a $15 fee to the buyer versus a wire, which would probably be $50 now. And it's done immediately. But the admin does not get a copy of it. You do as an agent get a copy, and the buyer does. So I have to give the receipt copy back to the admin along with the lender.
Okay, so that form is right in with our packages when you're using SkySlope, and I believe Transaction Desk also explains the process. Pretty simple to do. And last I knew, is there a nominal charge for that, $15 or something like that?
Correct. That's right. $15.
Okay, good deal. So anybody got any questions about that? What is the best when it comes to collecting EMD? Is it best that it's cash? Is it best that it's certified funds? Or is it best as a personal check? Awesome. Awesome. Well, pretty obvious answer. And by the way, it is a matter of opinion. The part I'm thankful for is that nobody said, why is this not allowing me to stop it? Nobody said cash. We don't do cash. It's one of the screwy things about where we've gone, but we don't do cash. So why certified funds? The money's good. We know that. Personal check, we already talked about it earlier. As a company, we've got to make sure that we have good money. And therefore, the best way to do that is certified funds, personal check. We've got to make sure it's good. It's 10 days before we can clear it. Can't give away somebody else's money, which is what we would be doing. So certified funds, and I was holding off. Otherwise, what would have been on there? Electronic transfer. And then it's just a matter of opinion as to what's best and from whose perspective. But really, electronic transfer is a great way to be able to do it. Certified funds is a great way to do it. Either of those two is what I would put as the best way. Obviously, a personal check does work. Cash does not. Question number 10. Give it a little bit more here. This was an important one to actually address. I can remember reviewing a lot of purchase agreements. And the issue is most purchase agreements actually will say boilerplate, we changed ours to give a little more flexibility. Most purchase agreements will have boilerplate as to who's holding it because it's the broker who has the count and they want to hold it. What we wanted to do, because of the size of our company, and we listen, many said, well, I want to have that flexibility because it's easier if I run into a deal where the builder, I'm selling new construction and the builder wants to hold it. If the buyer's good with it, we're okay with that. That makes sense. Sometimes it's the title company. So we have the blank to be able to write in who is holding it. The reason I threw this in is that when you're on the listing side and you're receiving someone else's purchase agreement, You need to make sure that it states who's holding it and that the correct party is holding it. And if not, that we get an addendum that states who is holding it. You'd be shocked to how many agents don't know or understand this. And by the way, an agreement with a title company as to the terms and conditions of how it's being held is not part of the purchase agreement unless it is made to be a part of the purchase agreement. That is the reason that I've thrown this one on to the end of this, is just to make sure that you know, make sure it's addressed primarily from the aspect of when you're the listing agent getting a purchase agreement from someone else. We want to make sure that all parties are understanding and in full agreement of how that actually does work.
Hey,
So with
Darwin,
that's
Darwin,
what I got. Yep.
doesn't the broker requirements require you to tell who's holding the EMD too?
Yeah, but the answer is yes. And thank you for pulling that out. I think that's important to understand. But for legal purposes, I need you to know, everyone to know, it must be stated on the purchase agreement. But you will put it on there. The key is, matter of fact, I think it's great, Holly, you bring that up, because now it forces you to take a look who's holding it and remind you to check the purchase agreement and make sure that those two are congruent, that they are the same.
I one time had an agent that didn't have the capability to hold the EMD. So he asked if our company would hold it for him and put it towards the title.
Yeah, and I believe with where I think the MLSs will be going, that there'll be open MLS, and we will be sharing with non-realtor real estate agents. I think that probably makes sense. It's an open MLS. They must be licensed. And I think that's where we're going to be going. Look, that could be in a year, that could be in 5 years, but I really do believe from everything I see, that's where things would be going. I think that we would run into this more often because there's going to be individual brokers who don't have a trust account, but they work with a title company that will, or they'll write it the way that John just mentioned. And I have seen that a lot. So that's a very good direction there. Very good advice, very good input. What else you guys got regarding Earnest Money? Concerns managers, admins, anything that we should add into this?
Hey, Darwin, I had a question when I was in a previous role, and I don't need to see a copy of the EMD because I'm the selling agent.
Oh, why
How do
do
you?
I,
Yeah,
why do I, as a listing agent, want that? I think, is that what you're saying, Scott?
pretty much.
Yeah. Why is it that as a listing agent, I want to have a copy of the EMD? Or this is acceptable because I just had this. I didn't get a copy of the check, but we got a confirmation from the listing broker that they have the deposit. Why do we want that?
So the seller knows you have the funds and the listing broker.
We're
Taking it off the market.
we're supervising the transaction. We're making sure that the buyer is not in breach of contract. The reality is, and I'm not good at this, but did they apply on time? Because that's one of the terms of the purchase agreement. Did they apply for the type of loan that they specified on the purchase agreement? If we're doing our job, we'd be supervising the entire thing, because in the end, think of all the third parties involved in a real estate transaction, yet who's going to take the fall if anything goes wrong? And look in the mirror, because you are it. So it's a matter of just making sure that all the parties are living up to the terms of the purchase agreement. So Scott, that's a great one because we didn't state that specifically. All right. Well, gang,
I have
I'll
one. I have one.
oh, go ahead, Lydia.
So, one of my sellers just received an offer. It was contingent on the sale of the buyer's home. The buyer received an offer from We Buy Houses LLC. The zero earnest money deposit, 30 days for inspection, and 30 days to close. What do you
Wholesaler.
think?
Wholesaler. Run. Run.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, guys, there's no commitment to that at all. What they're going to try to do, it is wholesaling. And they're going to get the seller to commit, and then they're going to sell the paper. They're going to sell that deal to somebody else. It would be assigned, and they're just going to walk away with a few $1,000s in their pocket, and they put next to no time into that specific transaction. So they've got no commitment in any way whatsoever. And it doesn't hurt them if they went past 30 days. What are you going to do? There's nothing there for you to even go after. So yeah, that's another great one. Guys, there's so many funny things that we can run into out in this business. When it looks funny, it probably is. Absolutely. And even hey John, I'm gonna touch on the aspect of the damage deposit. And then we'll wrap it up after this, guys. But many of you have said, why don't we collect a damage deposit? Why isn't it not part of our purchase agreement? Well, it wasn't even around in this area until one of our competitors, the large competitors, decided to start putting it on theirs. And so my argument is simply this. Okay, so you put a damage deposit. How is that covering your client? And there's a difference between a buyer and a seller. If it's your seller, you think, what's the issue? If it's your buyer, you're going, well, at least the money's there in case there is any damage. Right? Those are the two big keys. Well, let's say you put in a $4,000 damage deposit. You think, that's easy. Nobody's going to do any damage to the property until you get a buyer who comes in and starts going, oh my gosh, there's so much damage. Look at all these things that are wrong. And they start looking at nail holes or things that they just didn't see when they inspected the property. It might be a little nick in the linoleum or a chip on the countertop. Or who knows what all they could begin to go, yeah, no. So listen to that 4,000, we want 2,000. And what is the seller going to say? Go away, give me my $4,000. You bought a used home. And all of a sudden there's an argument and it can't be released because there's a dispute. So now what do they have to do? They have to go, well, John, go ahead.
Well, first they would try to work it out between the owner, the owners themselves, which usually doesn't work. Agents can intervene, but the stubbornness and it's he said, she said type thing, always looking for proof. Do you have pictures? What do you have to document it? And then, of course, what does the seller have to document? Because they weren't expecting there would be these damages that they're nitpicking about. So then there's arbitration. Some contracts have arbitration already spelled into it. Some of them have check here like ours does. If you want to participate in there, if there's a dispute.
Guys, beware. If you haven't heard my thoughts on arbitration, I go back to a good old friend of many of us, and the gentleman's name is Tom Kotzian. I went to Tom and I said, my friend, what
He's
is
the
your
best.
guidance on this? And Tom says, well, the best way for me to give you an answer is to ask you a question. Why would you ever waive your right to a juried trial? When someone agrees to arbitrate, they've waived that. So if I have a buyer or seller who asks me, should I ask them that question. Because could they still arbitrate instead of a juried trial or in front of a judge? But if they agree to arbitrate, well, that's what they have to do. And oh, by the way, anybody know how to handle an arbitration between two members of the public? Because, guys, we handle arbitration. Metro Detroit, I think Lansing actually has a way to arbitrate or help the public. But I'm not aware of any of our boards or associations in Metro Detroit that actually handle arbitration. We don't have mediators. We will
No.
handle arbitration between real estate agents, but not between the public. So that's a key thing. And so what ends up happening, guys, if you're going to have a seller accept a purchase agreement with a damage deposit, you better go through and take photos, date stamped, of everything in the house.
My
Everything in the
recommendation,
house.
I'd like to point something out. My recommendation, if you're willing to do a damage deposit, which I do not like with my deals, is that when they're doing their acceptance of the keys and they're doing the walkthrough or whatever it is, that you attend and try to protect your client with pictures and photos of what they're complaining about. An extra part of your job to do that for your seller, but who would know these buyers sometimes can be very picky. And I see a note on there about EMD can be held as part of the damage deposit. I would say no on that. Those are
I
two
would agree,
separate.
John. I think we need to leave them separate, Holly.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if it was $3,000 and $3,000, it's just a paper shift is really all it becomes. But I think that's the point that John and I are really making to you. If your seller accepts a purchase agreement with a damage deposit, you better go spend an hour and do a room by room photo session, checking everything off, showing existing damage, date stamped.
Because what's going to happen is when that seller moves out and they take all the pictures, all the stuff off the walls, there's going to be Moxnicki wear and tear, we'll call it, and to repaint a room, that's not part of the purchase agreement.
Anyway, wanted to address that. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of damage deposits on either side of it. Even from the buyer side, the only thing it's going to do is to cause me more time after closing because people don't understand that they bought a used home. And that's what's going to go on with this agent and the buyer's agent on the other side. They're involved in something that essentially they can't do anything about because you got two people's egos involved, and somebody that just doesn't understand that they bought a used house. And there's no proof that this was new damage. And they're nitpicking like it was, well, you were a tenant in my home. That's
And
not what it's about.
one other thing is that the arbitration, if you do go to that and they rule on it, that will be the final answer. You can't like take them to circuit court, I don't think, go back to redo it.
Yeah, that might be another one of the, what happens if there's a dispute? Why do we actually look for mutual release and so on? So that might be a future hot topic for us. But hey, for those of you left over, I just want to let you know, I have got Brian Westron coming in at the end of the month. Brian is the MAR legal, what do I want to say, legal counsel?
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah. There's been a lot that they've been finding out in regards to, and I'll say questions that are coming into the MAR legal hotline. So I said, I'd like you to talk about that subject matter, which is going to be about seller's disclosures, buyer's side of it, seller's side of it, agent's perspective on it. So I'm looking for some good information to come from him.
That'll be a good one.
All right.
We all
So I
got
think
stories on
whatever
that,
that last Tuesday is.
right? We all got
Absolutely.
stories on those.
Oh boy, can you find stories. All right, guys. Hey, another hot topic. We're wrapped up.
All right,
You
thank
guys
you.
have a great one. Let me know if you got other things. Thanks for helping out today, John, Donna. You guys were awesome. I hope you enjoyed the aspect of the polling too. We'll see if we can do more of those as they become appropriate.
Thanks,
Have
Darwin.
a great one. Thanks, guys.